Hi class, so this is the first of two presentations this week which are about grammar. And I'm going to try to keep them both pretty efficient, but there's a lot of information in both of them. And so you might need a little extra time to go through the PowerPoints on your own. So I will give you the files as well. This first one is about sentence types. And we'll talk a little bit about why this is important, but once we get to the end of it. But the idea is that as you learn to recognize different types of sentences, um, you can use them and learn how to master them better and make your writing more precise and more engaging as well. So to start off, it's really important that you can recognize what I call a sentence spine, which is this primary subject and verb combination in a sentence. So if you look at that first one, James teaches English, what's the subject and what's the verb? So the subject is James and the verb is teaches. And that's the sentence spine. James teaches. Learning how to recognize the sentence spine is important for everything we're going to do. So, so be sure you can. So that's why we're starting with this. So then here's another example. What's the sentence spine here? Of course, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if at DVC is in the end of it. It's still James teaches. What about this? Same thing. The primary subject and verb are James teaches. We also have this other subject, he likes, but the primary in this sentence is James teaches English. All right, James teaches English because he likes helping people communicate better. What do you think? You're getting the idea. Same thing. All right, let's look at this next one. James teaches English and he writes plays on the side. What's the primary? In this case, neither one is more important than the other. They're both important and they're both sentence spines, subject and verb. All right. So with that in mind, there are three kinds of sentences. So one is the simple sentence, James teaches English at DVC. It's simple because there's one subject and one verb. There's one sentence spine. A compound sentence is that last example we looked at where there are two sentence spines together. James teaches English and he writes plays on the side. A complex sentence is where there are two possible spines, but one is primary, one is more important than the other. James teaches English because he likes it. That's less important than the other. All right, and we're going to talk about each of them. So in a simple sentence, there's only one verb. James teaches English. Typically, that would be a simple sentence. I could add other things onto it, but as long as there's only one verb, one subject, that's a simple sentence. All right, pretty straightforward, simple. Compound sentence is where you have two sentences that are put together, and they're joined together with what are called coordinating conjunctions, and it doesn't matter that the vocabulary of that doesn't matter, but know that if you see these conjunctions, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, fanboys is, you may have heard that. Those are you use for compound sentences, which is where you take two sentences and you join them together. And when you have that compound sentence, James teaches English and he writes plays on the side, you've got to use a comma. So it's important you notice that comma there as well. Now, if you look at the bottom of the screen there, beware. James teaches English, he writes plays on the side. What's missing from there? The conjunction, and is missing. So that's an error, and that's a kind of a run-on sentence which is called a comma splice. And it's a very common kind of error. It's where you take two sentences and you join them together with a comma, but you haven't added the conjunction which needs to be there as well. So you want to avoid doing that. And look at the sentence below. This is a comma splice. You should avoid doing this. Anything wrong there? Yes, absolutely. That in itself is a comma splice. The ways you can fix it, I'm showing you two ways there. James teaches English, period. He writes plays on the side. You make him two separate sentences, or you add a conjunction. This is a comma splice, comma, and you should avoid doing this. And if you see this on your paper or you know that you have an issue with this, please look at page 45 in your style manual. All right. So the definition of a compound sentence is that there are two complete sentences, two subject and verb spines, joined with a conjunction, for and nor, but, or yet so. All right, that's a compound sentence. A complex sentence is similar. We've got two clauses, so two subjects and two subject verb spines joined together with a conjunction, but they're not equal, and the one clause depends on the other. So there's going to be one that's more important and one that's less important. And if you see any of these words here, although, if, after, before, because, since, until, when, while, those are called subordinating conjunctions, and that is a complex sentence. And if you look at the examples below, you'll notice that there are no commas here. James teaches English because he likes it. No comma there. That's a complex sentence. James will teach English until he retires, maybe. Complex sentence, no comma. James has been a full-time faculty member since he signed his contract. Complex sentence. Okay. So, a couple of other things to be aware of. James, teaching English at DVC. What's the problem there? The problem is that teaching is in the wrong verb form. This can happen sometimes where you get the wrong verb form, and that in that particular form, that would make it a fragment. So you want to avoid that. James teaches English at DVC because he likes it, being that he finds it satisfying to help people communicate better. What's the problem there? That's a run-on sentence because there's too much going on. If you count the spines, James teaches because he likes it. He finds it. So there's 3 spines there, which is possible, but in this case, it's too much. It's a run-on. James teaches English at DVC, period, because he likes it. What's the problem there? So because should be joined with the previous sentence. James teaches English at DVC because he likes it. It should be together. And the second sentence, because he likes it, it's called a dependent clause because it can't stand on its own like that. Because he likes it. That's a sentence fragment as well. So it should just be joined with the previous sentence. James teaches English at DVC and writes plays. Same thing. You want to get rid of the period. In this case, you actually don't need a comma. It's called a compound predicate, but that's not too important. All right. James teaches English at DVC, which he likes. Which he likes is also a fragment. So all of these are covered in your style manual as well. I think it's around page 42. So have a look if you have an issue with fragments, which many of these examples are. Okay, that is it for this presentation. Like I said, it was very quick. The PowerPoints are there for you to review and to use for the quiz. So as I promised at the end, I was going to mention why this is important. The reason this is important in terms of your writing is that it is really nice to have a variety of sentence types. And you'll see that that's one of the things on my rubric. The reason is that if you have all of one kind, all simple sentences, James teaches English, he likes dogs, he eats cheese for lunch. Those are simple sentences and it becomes very choppy. If you have only complex sentences, for example, it could get hard to follow because it would be too much complex, too many complex ideas. So instead, it's nice to have a variety, some short sentences, some long sentences, some compound sentences, etc. So that's the idea behind this. And I'd love to see you experimenting with that in the essay coming up for essay 3 and in essay 4.